What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the first official Buckeye Beat podcast. So, me and Cozy here, we're gonna do a Buckeye podcast for you. I'm kind of sick of talking about the Cleveland Browns, so we added this one to the channel here. But first things first, before we even get into anything Ohio State, Michigan sucks, and let that be a lesson out there. Cheating comes back to bite you in the ass, and it bites quickly. 31-12. Texas absolutely rolls over Michigan. Future Cleveland Browns quarterback Quinn Ewers dominates against the Wolverines.
I didn't say this. Do
I'll
not
say
take this,
it.
but okay.
I'll
Uh,
say it.
I mean, they look good. I will say this. Look, I don't know if you saw post game. Quinn is very composed.
Mm-hmm.
Post game, he took a picture with a little kid on the field, and talk about an absolute setup that the dad and his kid tried to do. Kid's hiding it in his hoodie pocket and pulls out the horns down, and it's like, what a bunch of sore losers. I mean, I already knew this about them going up there. Always been sore losers. Always had this arrogance about them that they are better than everybody. Um, but here's the thing: they got a lot of humble pie on Saturday, and it was bad. Like, I don't look. I mean, we can talk about it. Yes, I do believe that they had a big advantage in having Connor Stallions. Yes, it helped them out. Yes, there might be some evidence that they might have had hard drives of plays and stuff like that. It's bad when you get former players that are in the NFL saying that they know Michigan cheated this way. And here's the thing. I don't think that the players who play on the Michigan team knew about all of it. They were listening to their coaches. And they probably in the back of their heads thought, wow, our coaches are really good. They know where everything's going. So if you go talk to, it's not like some big thing where if you go talk to like a Michigan player and they're like, oh, I knew everything because we stole all this information. I don't think they knew that. I think they just were getting taught and told what to do. But you look at it, I mean, this Michigan team, they got some rude awakenings coming up. They got USC in 2 weeks at home. Look, I don't know what to make of USC right now. They look pretty good. But on Saturday, man, they don't have a quarterback. They don't have
No.
they have no quarterback right now. Like, I'm sorry, but Davis Warren, dude, you ain't getting it done. Like, some of his throws, I don't know how much you watched of it,
Every snap.
but how great was he? I mean,
They got a problem, and it shows you how terrible Alex Orgy is. And for me, Michigan sucks for many reasons, but I think the most glaring obvious reason is they're trying to run the same offense that they've ran for the last few years, and they don't have the talent to do it. I mean,
well,
Donovan Edwards looks horrible.
first off, they have basically all new linemen. They graduated
Exactly.
six
Yes.
linemen. They graduated six linemen that played a lot for them.
Hmm.
So that has a lot to do with it. It's early on in the season, and maybe if they played Texas later in the season, it might be a little bit different because the offensive line might gel. But as of right now, the way I look at it, Michigan's D line was supposed to be very dominant.
Hmm.
Outside of the starters, they don't have anybody on that D line. When they go to rotate, they're getting blown off the ball. Like Texas's O line was just, they were just shoving it down their throat. And it's like then the first team starters are getting tired because they have to be out there so much. There's a lot that's going to be told coming up in this Michigan season. It's still obviously young. You have a 12-team playoff, which changes a lot of things. But I mean, they don't have an easy route. You
No.
got USC coming up here in 2 weeks. You got Minnesota here in 2 weeks or in 3 weeks. I mean, look, I'm not saying anything about Minnesota, but I'll say this. If you lose to USC and then you lose to Minnesota, man, are we really going to be talking? And here's the other thing. After Minnesota, you're going out to the West Coast to play Washington. Like, we're starting to see like a trend here. And by the way, don't look now, but October 19th, they go to Illinois. Illinois is a pretty good football team who just upset Kansas. I mean,
Yeah.
There's so many conflicting things with this Michigan team that I don't even know where to get into it. I mean, obviously, our team is Ohio State. This is the big rivalry. That's why we're talking about them, because the way it started out on Saturday at noon was just, I don't know. They just didn't, they just were not there. Like, they were not into that game at all. And Davis Warren looked terrible, or you hit it right on the head. How bad's Orgy if he can't beat out Davis Warren? Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know what to think for them as far as their like situation goes.
I think they're just flat out terrible. I think the defense is solid, but and we can get into a discussion that we're not going to about Sunday, but when you have a defense, that's not getting any favors from their offense, it doesn't work. It just simply doesn't work. And I think Michigan, they can't run the ball like they want to. They have no quarterback. You mentioned it, the offensive line struggles. And then defensively, Quinn Ewers just tore them apart. That was ugly. That was very ugly.
I also want to say one other thing about them as a whole right now, and like looking at it, and you kind of stated it like they're relying on their defense all this year. I mean, they relied on their defense last year. I kind of look at this whole thing with them as they're not like, it's like they were like in a standstill almost on Saturday. And it's like they got behind and they just didn't know how to react. And I know they're not a team who's going to come from behind wins and things like that. But like, I almost want to go at them and be like, okay, why can't you play Ohio State right now? Because if you played us right now, you'd be toast. I can tell you right now, they can get better as the season goes on, but I don't know. I just don't know that they will.
Yeah. I don't feel good about Michigan at all. If I'm a Michigan fan, I'm just kind of writing off this season. But the good news is, guess what? We're not Michigan fans.
No.
The Buckeyes, that's why we're here, are rolling Ohio State in game 1, 52-6 over Akron. And then more recently, Ohio State 56-0 over Western Michigan. If I'm not mistaken, this was the first shutout since, I want to say 2019.
Yes.
So big time statement win. Not saying Western Michigan is a great team by any means, but this was a team that went toe-to-toe with Wisconsin last week, and there was some concern heading into the game how things were going to shake out. What is this Ohio State team going to look like against a team that gave Wisconsin some troubles? And your answer to that question was 56-0.
I mean, with the way the day kind of had went, the MAC looked pretty strong. Bowling Green gave Penn State a scare. Then you had, who was it? Oh, Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame. And it was like going into the nightcap, I'm like, okay, let's just get out of here. Let's make a cut. Let's cover the spread. And let's just get out of here with a win, because Western Michigan, who knows what they are. The MAC looks actually like they might have a decent fighter's chance in some of these games. And then, boom, 3 drives in, 21-0, and it was like, okay, we're fine. And then I'm like, no, we're not fine. We're really, really, really good.
Yeah.
Just down the line. Like, Judkins had 9 carries for 108 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremiah Smith, his touchdown was phenomenal.
Dude,
like,
he's unreal.
I can't overstate that. His touchdown, and by the way, okay, he is a freshman, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Will Howard's underthrow of him, I don't think was on Will Howard. I think that was a route ran wrong because Will Howard missed that by like 10 to 15 yards. Now, granted, Will kind of played it off like it was him. I don't know. We will never know.
Yeah.
But also, Will Howard, he's kind of making like he has some bad throws, but his bad throws aren't cost turning into turnovers as of right now. I don't think they will. I think he feels very comfortable in this offense to where he doesn't have to force things. He's never had this type of talent around him. I don't know how you feel about it, but he's a little bit better than the Honda we had before.
Yeah.
I know how you feel about it because I know your hatred for that guy.
Yeah. I'm a well documented. I don't want to say hater because I don't want to say I hate really anybody, but Kyle McCord, not a fan at all. I pounded the table that we weren't going to do anything with McCord, and he's doing well now. Good for him. But Will Howard, the dude is he's an interesting player. There was a lot of comparisons to like a Josh Allen type with him in the offseason. And I was fascinated to see how he was going to look in a Chip Kelly Ohio State offense. And so far, I mean, 17 to 28, 228, 3 touchdowns in his first game. Second game, 18 to 26, 292, a touchdown, and he had a rushing touchdown. I think that Will Howard has been the perfect definition of he does his job. He doesn't necessarily do anything that's like game changing by any means. But when it comes to just operating this offense and all the talent that's around him, I think Will Howard's doing a fantastic job. And the thing that impresses me the most about him, you mentioned Jeremiah Smith, but the guys he's throwing to, we are spreading the football out. We are attacking at all levels as far as the receiver room goes. Jeremiah Smith obviously had his 2-touchdown, 92-yard game, his first game ever as a Buckeye, as a freshman. But Carnell Tate in that game, 4 for 58 and a touchdown. Emeka Buka, 4 for 51. And then you look at this most recent game, Jeremiah Smith, 5 for 119 and a touchdown. Ibuka, 5 for 98. Ben Christian getting involved for 55 yards. Brandon Ennis, 45 yards on 3 catches. And Carnell Tate as well, same thing, 3 receptions, 45 yards. We are spreading the ball out. And, Cozy, when you look at how this Ohio State offense is attacking, you don't just have it at one level. These 2 running backs are outstanding. Last week, it was kind of Trevion really, getting the bulk as far as like the yards go. And Judkins in this game looked like Ole Miss Quinshaw Judkins.
Yeah, and you know what the other thing is that I want to say is we have a guy starting, Austin Severveld or whatever his name is at left guard. He's filling in for an All-American in Donovan Jackson, and he's doing a hell of a job, and you're seeing the line gel. Like, you saw some of the run plays that Judkins had and Travion had, and it's like they're gelling it together. And it's like they're just doing normal run blocking. And it's like you're learning on the fly. Now, when we get Donovan Jackson back, man, are we going to be like, man, is that going to be exciting? Because, I mean, here's the other thing. I'm not going to lie to you. They talked about it. Everyone's like, oh, man, McLaughlin, like he has trouble with snaps. It's a Milrow problem. It's very well stated. They're having trouble with snaps right now in Alabama. That's a Milrow problem. That's not a McLaughlin problem. So we actually got a great transfer there. He's awesome. Mm-hmm. Tackles are still a little bit whatever. I mean, I'd like to see Fryer take like the extra step, but I'm going to tell you what right now. I'm very surprised with the trenches how we're playing in the trenches. I mean, with us running the ball the way we are, you're talking about like Judkins and Travion Henderson. I mean, Travion Henderson looks like a freshman again. I mean, playing outright, he looks like a freshman again. He looks great out there. I never thought I'd see that again, and it's awesome to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's that dual running back threat. You can bring either one of those guys in, and then coming off your bench as the third, is James Peoples, who has
Oh,
been
yeah.
really good.
Yep.
So,
And you know what? Here's the thing. I mean, look, we are just absolutely loaded. I think we know that on the one side of the ball. And then you go to the other side of the ball,
mhm,
and dude, Caleb Downs, he had some hits.
he
Um,
did.
Jack Sawyer is playing awesome. JTT. Um, I mean, you're seeing other players that are getting time in there as well, like Hero Canoe. We saw Edric Houston in there for a few snaps. I mean, dude, we are so deep right now on this defensive line. And Sonny Styles looks awesome. CJ Hicks. Gabe Powers, when he's been in there, he's not getting time with the first team, but he's in on every tackle on the second teams. Like,
Mhm,
you might look, if one of them goes down and gets hurt, or like one of the linebackers gets hurt, I have full faith in Gabe Powers. Gabe Powers looks
mhm.
like he's very much improved. Then you go to the secondary. Can we talk about the targeting?
Go ahead. Well, actually, hold on. Hold on. I want to say something because you mentioned the linebackers.
Yes.
There's one name you did not mention who, in my opinion, is one of the most freakiest players on this Ohio State defense, and that's Arvell Reese. That dude
Yeah.
is built different.
Yeah, he
He's
is.
very versatile. You can use him off the edge. You can use him as a true linebacker. And I mean, that's a guy you got to find time for. Arvell Reese is out there making plays, and when you have that ability, and I talked about, and I hate that I'm bringing this up, but I talked about this with the Browns, where you can rotate guys in and out on that defensive line when you have that depth. It's so valuable to keep fresh legs in there. Same
Yeah.
thing for Ohio State at linebacker. I mean, we have the ability to just swap in, swap out, and not really miss a beat. And that is unreal.
Yep.
Unreal.
Um, I mean, yeah, look, this whole team is just we are set to make a run. Like, and it,
Yeah.
I could sit here and I could watch every single snap of this team play every single week at this point. Will it get
Hmm.
boring after a while? Yes, because we're blowing people out. But it was almost like an artist painting a picture on Saturday against Western Michigan. I mean, literally every little nook and cranny that we did was just perfect. Every play right out down to the end was just perfect.
Hmm.
Like, and then, I mean, fourth quarter, Julian saying, I mean, first touchdown pass, and he put it on the money.
Yep.
I mean, rolling out, put it on the money. Um, did it kind of get me a little excited? Just a little bit, because that's kind of the future. And yeah, I think if we happen to have something go wrong with a quarterback injury, he might be the guy to step in over the backup currently, because he looked more comfortable than our other backup. And I'm not saying Devin Brown looked bad on Saturday, because no one looked bad on Saturday, but it was just he looked that good.
Yeah. I
Um,
thought I thought when Devin Brown came in, he looked better than he's looked in the past. But I mean, it's just obvious to see the level of talent that Julian Sand has.
yeah,
I mean,
I mean,
it's different.
look, Devin Brown was 5 for 5, so there's you really can't do much. But Julian Sane also was 2 for 2, and one was a 55-yard put on the money strike for a touchdown. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
um, other than that, I mean, we can revert back to the targeting call now on
Yeah.
Denzel Burke. Look, I hate the college targeting rule. I throw the flag, review it, don't eject him from the game. Like, most of these guys are not meaning. Oh, and Derek's gone. But most of these guys are not meaning to have like a straight up intent to hurt said person. I hate the targeting role. Like, it's one of the worst rules in all of sports on any level. Like, any level. And I mean any level. I mean, we're talking NBA basketball, college basketball. Like, we're talking NHL. We're talking MLS soccer even. I don't even know all the rules of that. But, like, I don't think there's that many rules that are weird. But I'm just saying, this is the worst rule in all sports.
Yeah.
And he literally shoulder pad hit his helmet. There was no helmet to helmet there. No helmet to helmet.
No. And I mean, at the very minimum, like a penalty, still kind of bullshit, but you know what? Oh, whatever. To take him out of the game was absurd.
Yep.
Absolutely absurd.
And they should be able, here's the thing, they should be able to review it. This should be the new rule. Review it. If you still think it's a targeting, but there wasn't the intent there, don't eject him. Penalty stays. If you think the intent was there, then he gets ejected. If you don't think that there's any penalty that should have been called, then you pick up the flag. There should be 3 results of this. And I just think that they look at it totally incorrectly because it's very cut and dry, where you should have almost like 3, like I said, 3 things should be the result. Either 1, the penalty flag's picked up and there's no penalty. 2, there's a penalty, but it wasn't with malicious intent, so he's not ejected. Or 3, there was malicious intent and he's ejected.
Yeah. There was nothing there that warranted being ejected.
No,
and
not at all.
What kind of sucks, and I know this is maybe cliche, but you know, when you're facing teams like Western Michigan and teams like Akron and kind of the easy games on the schedule, that's good opportunity for a Denzel Burke to pop off a pick 6 and put that on his resume. This is a guy who came back and, you know, a vast majority of this team, especially defensively, came back. And, you know, these guys are making a name for themselves, trying to get to that next level. And to eject him was crazy. But speaking of the secondary, you already brought him up, but Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs has been absolutely the real deal. And there were some plays in that game where he just open field, flew to the ball, made a play. He's fit in this defense
I mean,
seamlessly.
He had this one hit, and it was probably middle of the second quarter. And all I could think was, oh my gosh, he just rang. The whole stadium heard the ring. They just heard this guy belt him. I mean, he just rang his bell when he hit him. I mean, it was just like pop. And I was like, wow, that's he's got it. He's got it.
Yeah. Dude, the fact that we pulled off some of the moves that we pulled off, I understand NIL, and I understand there's a lot of people against it, and I get why. I do think there needs to be a cap to it.
Yep.
But, hey, there's not, and we've worked out the money, and we got some unreal players on this football team.
You know what? Here's the thing. You want to say that, but if you really look about it, who did we bring in? You had Judkins. That's fine. You had Caleb Downs. Who else?
McLaughlin on the offensive line, I think, is a huge.
That's huge. Yes. Outside of that, though, everybody else was on this team. This team, and granted, okay, I forgot we did bring in Will Howard. I get that, but like, we knew.
How did we forget about Will Howard?
I know we knew we were going to be bringing in a new quarterback, no matter whether it was Will Howard or anybody else like that. But when you bring those 4 main players in, that's fine. But the foundation was already there. We just added to the product. And that's the thing that like says to me is like, okay, look, you can talk about NIL and how, oh man, we bought our team this year. That's great. But our team was already stacked. I mean, our team with Jeremiah Smith would have been already stacked.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeremiah Smith, I'm not going to lie, they said it during the broadcast, and it was Jake Budd who brought it up. They might need to change the rule of the NFL to let Jeremiah Smith in after 2 years. I'm not joking with you. They might. He could go play on Sunday right now. Like, I'll take that back. He still needs some fine-tuning. But I'll bet you he's better than half the wide receivers that were in the rookie class right now. Like,
Yeah.
he would have been out of high school, would have been a 4th or 5th round pick. Like someone would have taken him in the NFL. It would have been like, okay, look, dude, you're a freak athlete. Now, the problem is he's one of like 500,000 players. The last player that I can remember that was this dominant, maybe Adrian Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
Then maybe before that, Maurice Claret.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're talking like there's a lot of time in between these players that are generational and ready to go from high school to the NFL.
Well, what's insane is when you look at this wide receiver room, obviously we know it's stacked. It's been the best receiver room in the country for years.
Yeah.
But let's be realistic here. I mean, we went into the season, a lot of hype around Jeremiah Smith, yes. But Emeka Egbuka, he was the guy. He was our number one, the guy who's projected to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
In game 1, he had 51 yards on 4 receptions.
Yeah.
Game 2, I actually was pleasantly surprised. I shouldn't say surprised, but I was happy. 5 receptions, 98 yards. I thought he looked better. And Jeremiah Smith is making Egbuka look average, which is unreal.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I'm glad we spread it around a lot. And that's the one thing that I like that, I mean, Will Howard does, Julian Sand did, Devin Brown did. Well, I mean, Julian Sand only completed 2 passes, but Devin Brown, I'm pretty sure Devin Brown completed all 5 of his passes to 5 different targets. I could be wrong on that. Maybe he had 2 completions to Ennis. But, I mean, overall, you're looking at it like we had 25 receptions. Our leading receiver was Egbuka and Smith with 5 each.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12 different players had a catch.
Yeah. Which is unreal.
Yeah.
And especially, I mean, Jeremiah Smith had 119, Egbuka had 98. Let's just call it what it is. That's 2 receivers over 100 yards.
And we're also going to say this, 2025 Heisman Trophy winner, Jeremiah Smith. So you just need to take that into account.
Early predictions.
Yeah.
It's hard not to.
Yeah.
I mean, I know like Cam Ward's popping off at Miami. I know the Boise State running back, whose name I can't remember, he's popping off.
Yep.
But, I mean, let's be honest. Let's be real. Jeremiah Smith could be in the Heisman conversation this year as a freshman.
I don't know about that, but I mean, it's going to be interesting. It will be interesting, but I think it's a little bit early for this year. But next year, I think yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you want to run down some games from this past week that were interesting, like Boise State, Oregon?
Well, so a couple teams I want to specifically look at. One of them being Boise State, Oregon, because obviously Ohio State's got a game against Oregon that originally we thought was a little tough, and now it's maybe not as tough. But I want to bring this up just to shit on a specific person. Notre Dame lost, and in the event of Notre Dame losing, that shithole school cost me the easiest $50 I've ever not won in my life. I had a parlay of like all the big schools, right? Now, so there were 3 games that were close. Kansas State, which they ended up winning. Oklahoma State, who won in double overtime. I was like, cool, great. $50 in the pocket off of $5. Nope. Notre Dame had to shit the bed. And my whole reasoning for bringing this up, thank God Riley Leonard did not come to Ohio State.
He looks kind of lost at Notre Dame right now. Look, I am one who most people know. I do not like Notre Dame at all. I have never liked Notre Dame. I've always thought I went to a Catholic high school and always got told you need to be a good Catholic boy and cheer for Notre Dame. No, I don't, and I'm never going to. I'm a Buckeye through and through. Um, Look, I took great pleasure in just watching Michigan get dismantled and then Notre Dame just blow it to a max goal.
Yep.
And if you're Notre Dame, at what point do the wheels start turning on Marcus Freeman? Because you have a pretty easy schedule again this year, and everyone thought, "Oh man, you beat Texas A&M, you're going to cruise to 12-0," and then you go lose to a MAC team.
Hmm.
Marcus, this is the second time in Marcus Freeman's career that his home opener has been against almost an inferior opponent. And I'm not saying Marshall has history, but this is not the Marshall, the Chad Pennington, Randy Moss, Marshall Thundering Herd here. They beat them. And then now you have Northern Illinois who, look, what was the line? Like 38 and a half points? 39?
It was, yeah, it
Yeah.
was something crazy.
And you end up losing your home opener to Northern Illinois. And not only just losing it, like at the end of the game, you were trying to kick a field goal to win the game with 5 seconds left. And it was like a 56 yarder,
Hmm.
62 yarder, something ridiculous. And it was like, dude, I don't even know if he has the leg to do it. Um, Amazing that it happened, but they're just not that impressive. And now, if you're the playoff committee, look, I don't know if I let Notre Dame back in. I'm going to be honest with you.
It's it's hard because with the 12 team playoff, and this is why I was all about expanding the playoffs. I
Yeah,
was. But the 12 team is just too much for me because you look at it, you have Notre Dame who lost, you have Michigan, which I see minimum 4 losses on their schedule.
yeah,
Penn State almost lost to Bowling Green, and I know they didn't, and you can't really penalize somebody for almost losing. But what happens if Penn State slips up on some games? What happens? We'll talk about it here in a second. But Oregon, they don't look great. What happens if
yeah.
they get caught lacking to a team that's not named Ohio State? I I don't know. It'll be fascinating to see how the 12 team playoff works out. But since we're kind of talking about rankings here, just quick side question I wanted to bring up. What did you think about Ohio State getting moved down one spot for Texas?
Okay, so here's my feeling on it. I know that we can recuperate, recover from that, jump them at some point. They may lose a game. Who knows what will happen? Um, my argument here is you didn't move Georgia down, and Texas has the most impressive win of the season. I think when all push comes to shove, and this is going to be a hot take, um, I think it's a little SEC bias again. You have 5 teams right now, or the top 5 teams. 4 of those teams are SEC teams. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of the whole narrative of, oh, we just cannibalize ourselves. We beat up on each other and everything like that. And it's like, no, you don't. It's the only reason is because your narrative says you're ranked that high. You have SEC teams out there losing week in and week out right now in non conference. Auburn just lost to Cal. Cal. Like, we're not, are we being serious right now? And I'm pretty sure that the SEC has struggled all season again in non-conference. Like once again, non-conference they have struggled. Um, so I mean, you're I don't even know where to kind of like I mean, look, big win for them with Texas, things like that. Great for Texas. Um, it's not all going to matter in the end though because the Big Ten's probably locked in as the number 2 seed in the tournament. So the Big Ten champ. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
really going to matter. And hypothetically speaking, if we go undefeated, Georgia gets a loss, they win the SEC, or whoever wins the SEC has a loss, they could be the 2 seed, we could be the 1 seed. It's not really going to be that much of a difference. So I guess I'm a little upset about it, but at the same time, like it, I just want to know why Georgia didn't move down below Texas? Is it because they beat a terrible Clemson team who we don't know anything about? I have no idea. But
Yeah.
what I can tell you right now is like You got Arizona State beating Mississippi State. Like, look, Arizona State, they might be one of the worst teams in the whole country, and they're beating one of your teams. You have Arkansas blowing a 28-point lead against Oklahoma State. Like, look, your conference is not all that. Like, it's just not. Like, but they get ranked high, and they have all these ranked high teams and things like that. Good for you guys. I'm still not buying it. I think that they are all way overranked. Things will even itself out, and hopefully this week in Camp Randall, Wisconsin beats Bama. Because then that will shift everything. I also have another hot take. I don't think Texas is that good. They had to reload with a lot of different stuff. I just think Michigan is that bad.
I agree. I think Texas is a talented team. You know, future Cleveland Brown Quinn Ewers, future Cleveland Brown Isaiah Bond. You know, very talented team. Listen, we're speaking stuff into existence here. You know, I think Texas is good. How good? I don't know. That's kind of the biggest question you leave the Texas-Michigan game is like, okay, which one is it? Is Michigan that bad or is Texas that good? Yeah. I could see it both ways. I think Michigan is terrible. I do. I genuinely believe Michigan is that bad.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I can also see Texas is a talented football team.
Yeah.
Texas is a very talented team. Where do they line up with the Georgia, Ohio State, the top of the top? That's hard to tell. I was a little bit frustrated that we got moved down, but you know what you said, it's all going to work itself out. We have a long season ahead. Ohio State doesn't play this weekend, but if you want to here, we can talk quickly about some games coming up.
We'll start with that Alabama-Wisconsin game. Look, this thing could get ugly, but do we really know what Alabama is all about? Now, Alabama struggled with the USF, and it was a close game, and then, boom, they scored 4 touchdowns in, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, well, this game's over, and it's a blowout. And it's like, okay. I don't know. Camp Randall's an interesting place. If they get rocking early, I mean, it's an 11 a.m. kick. If they get rocking early, who knows what could happen? I don't know. Do you have any outlook on that?
I don't know. It's tough to tell with Bama because I like a lot of what they have. Their receiver room, I think, is a little underrated. I think they got some talent there, and I like Milroe. I'm a big fan of Jalen Milroe. I know he has his issues, but you know what you just talked about. I mean, they can put up points like that, and it's hard to really get a read on them. I do think they're going to end up beating Wisconsin.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think that game is going to be a tough, fight it to the end type of football game. And I think this is a good measuring stick. This is the kind of game you look at and you say, okay, where are we at with these two teams? Bama, going back to the 12-team playoff, I think they are a team that could get in there at the lower level of that 12. But, you know, are they the Bama team that can go all the way? I don't think so. I don't. But I also don't know. I don't know what their ceiling is, and I don't know what their floor is. That's my take on Alabama for this season.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Maybe we'll do 2 more games here.
That's fine.
A shocking top 25 matchup. Boston College going to Missouri. Now, the reason I say shocking is because coming into the season, Boston College was kind of looked at like maybe one of the worst teams they would have in the history of their program. And then they got to play Florida State, which was a gift. And they dominated. Mm-hmm. So I want to see what they're made of this week because they got Missouri. And look, they're moving up the rankings early. They've already went from number 9 in the country all the way to number 6. And it's all because they've had two shutouts in a row. Murray State and Buffalo, cool. Like, it means nothing. Let's see what they're really made of this week. They play Boston College. I don't know what to think. I really don't. Because this matchup has, honestly, the way Boston College runs it with Trayshawn Ward, look, they know how to run it, and they know how to pound that rock down your throat. And then you got on the other flip side, a returning player in Brady Cook. Look, they could very well be on their way to a playoff berth, honestly. Missouri, their schedule is not that hard. Like, they get Alabama, they play Alabama and Oklahoma. Outside of this BC game, that's the only other two ranked teams that they play. They could legit even end up in Atlanta for the SEC title game, pending on the way things fall. It's an uneven schedule, I know, but they could. They could.
I don't know. Between Georgia, Alabama, and Texas, I don't know how. I think at least two of those three, I think, are going to be in it. But Missouri's no slouch. Again, let's go back 12-team playoff. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but there's going to be some teams you don't necessarily think of as a playoff team that make it in. And if things fall right for Missouri, then yeah, they certainly can. And I agree with you. I want to see what Boston College actually is, because I think we know what Florida State is now. They suck.
Yeah.
Seeing Boston College go up against a team that's not necessarily like the elite, but a really good football team, even if they lose, but they lose it close and they put up a good fight. It's stuff like that I want to see, but yeah, I don't know. It's a long shot for Missouri to get into that SEC title game, but I guess not impossible.
Yeah. And I guess last game I'd kind of like to highlight is it's a little bit of a rivalry that we thought was going to go away. They kept it. Oregon is going to go to Oregon State. Now,
yep.
I don't like chances. Oregon's a 16.5-point favorite. I am hammering the Beavers to cover that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not impressed by Oregon. And I'll tell you where Oregon's struggling. The trenches. They are getting manhandled in the trenches. Wait till honestly, if Michigan didn't look so bad this week and didn't show that they had one defensive line, I would have been like, Michigan is going to wipe Oregon with the board. Mm-hmm. Like, they're going to wipe them off the field and just kill them because Oregon's not going to be able to move the ball on them. Look, Oregon has a lot of problems on that offensive and defensive front, and they are getting dominated in the trenches. So, and by the way, I don't know if people know this, but there's a guy at Oregon State who knows how to run the ball called J.M. Griffin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he may have a field day on Oregon. I actually got Oregon State winning this game.
Wow.
I think J.M. is going to go off, and I think Oregon's not going to be able to stop him. And it's at Oregon State, so that place is going to be absolutely hyped because they feel very slouched, very slighted, everything by Oregon, and they were left in the dust. So I got Oregon State winning this week.
Yeah, I can't go as far as to say I think Oregon State's going to win, but I'll tell you, you talk about not meeting expectations. Oregon, boy, oh boy, I thought they were going to be in that upper tier as far as college football for the season. And I wouldn't say they suck. Like, I'm nowhere near Michigan with them, but they're more so in we got some pretty big problems there. I think it's fascinating because the defensive line in particular was being talked about, and the defense as a whole at Oregon, all offseason. Everybody's in the chats and everybody's in all all over social media talking about how good this Oregon team is going to be, and not even talking about what they have on offense, because we know they have talent on offense. Defensively was the spot that they were being hyped up the most, or at least that's how I felt.
Yeah.
And you're just not seeing that at all.
No.
And then on the flip side, Oregon, you mentioned it. You can have all the talent in the world. If you don't have time, you have nothing.
Yep.
And the fact that this is what we're talking about with Oregon, a team that has the talent that they do, that is just looking as abysmal as they have, is unreal. Like that, I was not expecting that whatsoever. And I know we don't play them for a few weeks, talking about Ohio State. I don't know about you. I'm not even remotely worried about that game anymore. I don't care where it's at.
I'm a little worried we have to go out there, but other than that, not really. I'm pretty confident. So,
yeah. But all right, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Nope. That's about it. Very, very, very relaxing, to be honest, because the Bucks are real. They're really relaxing right now.
Yeah, absolutely rolling everybody. You want to tell the people where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at realmindofcozy. That's COZZI.
Indeed. So I will have all the socials and everything in the description, as I do with everybody. But I hope you guys enjoy this podcast. If you do, leave a like, drop a comment, all that jazz. Want to make this a regular thing. Plan on doing this, probably not next week because it's a bye week, but making this a regular thing. So, gotta have something else to talk about other than the disappointing, heartbreaking disaster that is in Cleveland. Go Bucks, everybody.
Go Bucks.
We will see you in the next one.